Hello, and welcome to Optimizing Human Potential, Mind, Body, and Soul. I'm Nicole Cruz, super busy mommy coach, helping busy parents reach high levels of fitness and health despite being sleep deprived and interrupted every 2 minutes.
And I'm John Kempf, functional strength and nutrition coach and yoga instructor, and I teach people scientific and holistic approaches to optimizing their health and performance using movement, nutrition, and mindfulness.
I'm Eric Cruz.
There he is, folks.
The star of this episode. And then we also have Sunny Anastasia joining us. Sunny is a certified clinical hypnotherapist, yoga teacher, kids and teens yoga teacher, special needs yoga teacher, post-traumatic stress disorder yoga instructor, and intuitive healer. She has been recognized for her powerful practice, intuitive understanding of the body, mind, and spirit, as well as creative and engaging teaching style. She draws from her immense background to uniquely weave together yoga, mindfulness, breath, relaxation, hypnotherapy, myofascial unwinding technique, and make it an interactive learning experience. She is the founder of Yoga Toka Healing Art Studio and Your Sunshine Charitable Organization. Sunny, welcome to Optimizing Human Potential.
Thank you so much for inviting.
We're so happy to have you.
Thank you. Looking forward.
Definitely.
All my yoga peeps, get ready. This is going to be a good one. This one is for you guys.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of nerding out in this one, I'm sure. Yeah, so Sunny, you have a very incredible background. Do you want to just start by telling your story?
I started doing yoga since I was 3. For me, yoga really helped me to heal my body, to be more in tune with my body, with my emotions. It helped me to connect to my mind and to see the world from a different perspective. So it's really served me as a tool to be able to connect more deeply to myself. And it's translated into the passion of sharing yoga with kids, teens, and adults, and especially kids. And that's what really motivated me to start the Your Sunshine organization that specifically serves kids and teens at the public schools and private schools. And we work with special needs population as well. And it's inspired me to be at service to adults as well. And that's why we started Yoga Toka, which is healing arts yoga studio. We offer other holistic services at the studio as well. But my journey started when I was little, and it's still evolving. I still learn every day. And kids are my best teachers, like Eric.
Yeah, absolutely. They have so much to teach us.
There's a lot of wisdom that a lot of times parents, they wanted to constrict kids. They want kids to think the same way as we as an adults think. And that's not allowing the kids to open up and to be who they are, to be that free of expression, free to move and to wiggle and just to be who they are, their authentic self. But a lot of times as parents, we put them in the box and tell them how to behave, what to do. And the purpose of yoga is really to allow them to connect to that authentic self, allow them to be who they are, and just be that expressive spirit in all spectrum of colors and frequencies on this dimension.
Yeah, I mean, that resonates so much with me because as a parent, I find myself trying to find the right balance between teaching Eric how to function in society and sort of unleashing his natural talents and strengths upon the world. And, you know, I put something up recently and I remind myself of this anytime things get tough and I feel that urge as a parent to try to control. It's like, you know, go through in your mind right now and try to list all of the great people in history you can think of who are described as obedient.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's just, that's not, you know, like it's easy for us adults, but is that really the best thing for our kids?
Absolutely. And to me, I found that yoga really allows kids to be free on the mat, to be free in a classroom. They know that yoga teacher allows the full expression. And that's when I really start connecting to their talents and their gifts. And also yoga serves, when I teach yoga classes to kids, it helps them to learn some tools that in the long term really helps them to work deeply with their emotions. They know that emotions, it's not them, it's just energy and motion that moving through them. Instead of being that emotion all the time, they can just explore and learn how to release in a healthy way that emotion. So definitely, to me, seeing how mindfulness and yoga touches the hearts of all those beautiful souls and how it really allows them to keep that spark of their light still shining, that really just brings the smile to my face. And every time when I see kids, like, it just brings up that inner joy and that inner child in me too. So they're really a good reminder. When I teach my classes, like, I just come back to my inner child. They remind to stay positive, stay happy. And that's the vibe. That's the kind of the atmosphere in my classes. Usually I love just to keep encouraging that positivity. I would never discourage the child to be who they are. That's kind of the key in my classes, the way how I teach the classes, really allow them to be on the mat of who they really are, but give them tools when they need to use those tools, if they're dealing with certain emotions or if they're working through coordination or flexibility or balance issues. So then they have some tools how they can apply those tools later on in life, but then always allow them to be free of who they are. So that's kind of my little philosophy of my teaching.
I mean,
That's
I miss
beautiful.
you. I wish you had one in New York.
It's so funny too when you work with kids in the yoga setting, because you see, like, I like the idea of breaking things up into thirds, kind of like the law of thirds. And there's a third, like the classes that I've taught anyway, the experiences I've had teaching with kids, and it's very similar to teaching adults, because like you said, the inner kid is still in you. One of my favorite quotes is, just because our bodies grow old doesn't mean our souls do. Our souls are timeless. That childlike excitement and youthful vitality is still within us. And also that expression of those characteristics is within us. And you see that so much in a little kid, but in yoga, it's so funny. You have a third of the kids that are there to, like, they're taking it more seriously. They're interested in the poses and they practice. And then you have the 30 kids who are like, kind of just not really caring at all. They're like, they're having a good time. They're definitely still listening, but they're not, like overly invested. They're kind of just like messing around, dinking around. And then you have the other 30 kids that like legitimately are expressing to you that they do not care. They're like, I literally have had classes where kids will like just sit around in a circle by themselves, like over in the corner, instead of doing the yoga class. And that's totally cool, like, to come there and have that opportunity to express themselves in any way they want, to feel comfortable and to connect. And then, like you said, also offer a scaffolding of, opportunity there, guided opportunity for them to grow or expand in themselves in whatever avenue they're, focusing on or what they want to learn about. Like you said, the different aspects of balance and strength and whatever it is of the body or of the mind, wherever, they're trying to expand on their knowing. And then, having that opportunity to provide them that example through play, I think is so huge that we've lost as adults. Like, even in my training sessions, I'll have like clients throwing tennis balls around the gym, back and forth, like playing catch, and then one hand and, just like dancing around, playing monkey games. Just why not? That part of play is like so necessary to express all of who we are instead of just like that quote unquote adult side of ourselves. And it's so easily reflected in children. It's really beautiful.
Absolutely love it. It just really summarizes and really tells the real truth of the yoga classes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no kidding. Even with adults.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Sunny, can you get into more, like, why did you start yoga at 3 years old?
Well, when I was born, I had a brain injury, and I had the doctors prescribed me some kind of like disorder, and it really affected my coordination. I would have really poor coordination, have some light seizures, and luckily I was sent to a yoga therapy program, and I started the dance program, and I would do tennis. So it really helped the coordination. It helped somehow to balance the right and left hemisphere. All those poses, they are, I mean, it's definitely, it's an ancient practice, yoga, and the yogis who created those poses, it really has much more deeper meaning of what we see, our physical eyes can see. And on energetic level and on emotional level, it does move those blocks and the energies in your body. So and really connects to our nervous system a lot. So it helps to rebalance, to recalibrate the mechanism of our body and the way how it moves and our all levels of us, physical, emotional, and mental. So it really helped me a lot. And that's when I started practicing yoga. As a kid, I wouldn't understand what I'm doing. I didn't even know what I'm doing, but I always enjoyed it. When I was a kid, actually, I had a dream, and I would always tell my parents that I wanted to be a physical PE instructor. I wanted to teach. I didn't know what I wanted to teach, but I'll always tell my parents I want to teach the physical education to other kids.
Mm-hmm.
I was already telling when I was a kid, I was the best in yoga. It's not about the pride of saying that, but I just loved it. I would just nail and practice every pose. And every time, and when I was little, growing up in Eastern Europe, I didn't know what a lotus pose is. And I would do always on my bed, lotus pose. And my parents would ask me, like, what are you doing? And I was like, I'm just doing a lotus pose. Don't you know this pose? In our language, in my native language, there's not such word lotus. They were just like, okay. And I'll just keep doing it and practicing, like walking on my hands in lotus pose. And like, they were just like, they would be very suspicious. But that's how my practice evolved. And I really wanted to stay connected. And I would always, I guess the most favorite subject in school, that was yoga therapy and PE. And I think it's important. I don't know. Well, I love math. I was good in math. I mean, I was really good in school, but that was the best, the most favorite classes that I just want to do them. So that's how the practice started, the yoga practice. And it's still evolving. I'm still learning. I'm still growing. I always love to be a student. I go to classes. I take classes. I learn from other teachers. On all levels, I love to learn. So to me, the learning curve never ends, never stops. There's no beginning and there's no end. There's so much to learn, and there's so much to explore and discover about our human body, about our human mind, our ego, our mental, emotional bodies. It's such a complex world, and sometimes our mind, the third dimensional mind, can barely grasp even pieces and put them together. The body that we see, it's like we think it's just only one piece, but there's layers and layers over the layers. It's just much harder to explain. But what I'm amazed of, the kids, they know that almost everything. And by connecting with kids, I learn every day. They when I want to know something, I'll ask them a question. They'll tell me like a beautiful, just channeling wisdom right there in a moment, because they just stay so pure and connected. They don't feel like they're judged. They're not restricting themselves from being who they are. And that's how my practice of yoga is constantly evolving and growing and never stopping.
At what point did you start to come to the understanding or realization that yoga was not just something that felt good on that, say, physical level, but you realized there was something more to this? There was subtle changes happening in your life, I'm sure, at some point. When was that kind of like understanding or awareness brought about to the fact that like, this is a long-term big deal thing? I'm working on some heavy shit here.
Yeah. Well, to me, when I was 4, my parents I was already more aware, I guess, as a child. They were insisting to do surgery.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a little bit when I was older, maybe 5. But then I would always kind of be backing up and say, like, wait a minute. I don't want to have anything done on my body, because it will just mess up my whole energy field. Bless you.
Thank you.
So that was my response to my parents, and I didn't want them literally to do anything, because when we do surgery, unless if it's an urgent emergency, then it's changing the patterns, and just putting the patch on something or putting the band-aid does not solve the problem. So to me, I knew that that path that I'm going, it's much more deeper understanding what I am dealing with in my physical reality, and what is their gift behind that? What is something that for me to learn a lesson? What is something that I really created for myself for a reason, not just appeared from nowhere? And that really kind of was keeping me on that journey of discovery and just staying more on track of like keep dwelling on that learning of yoga. And to me, I realized that yoga is not just physical, it's not just yoga poses, but it's everyday practice. How do you handle the challenges and obstacles in your life? How do you work with your emotions when someone is like randomly at the store yelling at you? Like, how do you respond to that? That's the practice of yoga. Like, how do you stay in that inner peace, in that state of deep connection to your true essence of who you are, when there's a dark moments in your life, when there's a shadow part of you coming out of you, when there's there's a big giant thunderstorm in your life is happening and there's no sunshine is shining yet. So that's what yoga to me became, that it's not just physical being on the mat and doing yoga poses, but it's much more deeper. Like, how do you work with your emotions? How do you work with your mind? Where's your mind? Like, we have billions of thoughts every day. So who is thinking all those thoughts? Who are you? So then there's a question I would always ask my parents: what is purpose of life? Who I am? Is I'm human? Who is that living? Who's perceiving this world? Like, what is real? What is not? And to me, yoga, the more I would read, the more I would learn, the more I'll connect with other people, teachers, I'll start understanding that yoga is beyond of my imagination that can even imagine. To me, if it can be even called that way, it's just like very complex. It's almost like intelligent field of understanding of beyond of space and cosmos. It's just, there's so much more in practice of yoga than just physical poses. But then we're all different, and I truly respect everyone, and I encourage everyone to start somewhere rather than nowhere. If the person feel more resonated with physical body, and if you want to start on the physical level practicing yoga poses, it's amazing. It's already doing all the work, wonderful work. And then when the consciousness is ready, when the person is evolving, then the person will go deeper into the practice of yoga, understanding it's not just poses, it's much more deeper, it's much more inside of us that we're learning about our multidimensional existence on this plane and other planes. So I do, to me, practice of yoga, it could be different for every person, and there's no judgment. To me, there's no right or wrong. There's no good or bad. It's all about your journey and where you are in your practice and where you are in your consciousness. If you're on the level where you're just stepping in to that awakening, and there's nothing wrong with that, it's not bad. And if that spirit still want to play for another millions of light years, it's perfect. There's no right or wrong. That's how I perceive yoga, that yoga is just the personal journey of awakening, of remembering of who you are, remembering that you created that reality and now you're living that reality. Is it even real? Perhaps maybe it's not.
Yeah, I was going to ask you too, just to expand more on, like if you were to recommend a starting point for people, of like, you said just practice poses, or is there a certain, piece of advice you would have for someone that's looking for that resource or pathway to take, that is interested in pursuing the journey of yoga?
Absolutely. Well, a lot of times when our spirit is ready, the life will start, the synchronicities start happening in your life. A lot of times, if you don't hear the little keywords, if you don't pay attention, if we ignore those keywords, the life becomes a little harsh on us, and it'll start putting the experiences that would really bring that mind and body into the into the alarm system, where it was like, okay, that's what I meant. And it depends where the person is or where the spirit is, but a lot of times, unfortunately, when we take back and we have our own way of thinking and living, the life, when the spirit is ready, the life will start pushing you, start creating perhaps some challenges in your life. It could be physical challenges, obstacles, it could be diseases, it could be illnesses, it could be relationship challenges. That means the spirit is ready for evolution. That's when the challenges come to our life. Those challenges, they are blessings. They are blessings that help us to evolve and to grow. But when we push it away and when we see that from negative perspective, that's when it's slowing us down. So starting yoga, it could be as simple as just being at your home and just asking yourself, what is something that really I wanted to explore at this moment? What is something that bothers me? Where's that joy on my face? Where's that beautiful smile? What is happening inside of me? How do I feel right now? And then just start connecting to those emotions, or connecting to what you feel without judgment, without judging, oh, this person is bad. Oh, maybe I should do this way. Oh, this person is not doing the right way. Maybe I should do yoga just sitting on the mat and sitting in meditative pose. Or maybe I should just do that, beautiful, all those poses and doing stretches. But perhaps it's just coming to that stillness. Just taking that deep breath in and a deep exhale sound, like just letting yourself arrive. Let the energy settle down. And then just observe. Just notice what you feel. Notice where you are. Let all that chitty chatty mind just dissipate and dissolve. And that's what, to me, where the yoga starts. Just start connecting to yourself by settling down in any place. It doesn't need to be in yoga studio. It can be at your own place, in your house and outside in the nature. Stepping back from everything what you know about yourself and others, and just be a witness. Just observe. Yoga does not necessarily mean just go and do all the flexibility and all the stretches and creating the competition in your mind, but it's much more deeper. The first is just stillness. Stillness of your body, stillness of your thoughts. If it helps, maybe closing your eyes. If it doesn't feel right, just with your eyes open, just feeling what you notice. The first key is awareness of your body. Awareness, what do you feel in your body? Acknowledging that, yes, I am in this physical body. I am here. Yes, I am on this planet Earth. And perhaps there's other questions that will birth out of that question. Why I am here? What is something that I want to learn? Not someone that forcing me to go towards that path. What is something that excites me at this moment? What's something that connects with me? Is that the practice on the yoga poses? Or maybe it's a practice just being in the garden and connecting with earth. Maybe it's just sitting outside and listening to the ocean. Maybe just being in New York City and just enjoying that vibe of so many people surround me. Of being that connection to everyone in such a small space. And feeling their energies and knowing their emotions and just observing all what is happening. The practice of yoga can be everywhere, but it always starts in our mind. It doesn't start in our body. And that's how I advise, if anyone wants to experience what is true yoga. Yoga is a union of your body, mind, your spirit. If you wanted that to experience, then step back from everything what you knew. Just drop all this patterns, emotions. Drop all the knowledge that you knew about yourself or others, and just explore who you are. It's like almost a meeting a new person in your life, and you start learning, discovering, like, oh wow, that's an interesting person. Perhaps maybe that will be your journey of finding yourself and your practice. What's something that resonates with your heart? For some people, it could be as simple as meditative art, like expressing the emotions on the paper and then drawing those emotions on the paper and the shapes and colors. Maybe it's singing, maybe it's talking to someone else. There's a variety of ways how you can start that union, the yoga, the union of your mind, body, and your spirit, and merging those three into one, into the union, to the back into the connection to that pure consciousness, to the your true essence of who you are. And that will be my advice. Of a lot of times people think like, oh, I need to buy a mat, I need to buy yoga pants, I need to be flexible as everyone else. And a lot of times they go back into that 3D ego dimension where they know that I'm not so good as everyone else. They go into that chitty-chatty mind. They think, oh, well, I don't think so, I can do that well. And they start judging themselves. They start torturing themselves. They start hurting themselves there on the mat. And then they go into that trap of just getting lost completely. They start hating themselves. They start hating their self-image, their bodies. Their mind is just torturing them even more. And then it becomes like the yoga, it's like a hate. The thing like, oh, yoga is all about these, skinny pants and yoga mats and all those crazy poses. But it's not. It's as simple as just slowing down, catching your breath.
The great union.
That was beautiful. What a great answer to that question. I loved it. One thing that you've mentioned a lot is energy, and to people who are not as familiar, like me 2 years ago, it can sound just very mystical and abstract as opposed to something that we're all actually experiencing and noticing every single day. So how can you help people to get in touch with that energy and recognize like, oh, that's the energy that they're talking about. I know exactly what that is now. I feel it.
Yeah. Well, there's different names that you can give to the word as energy. To me, as a kid, I would have a physical limitations with my physical eyes to see in the physical world. And I learned to see with my non-physical eyes that it's not just necessarily we see shapes, we see people in front of us, we see, for example, there's a table in front of me where it's, the computer is right now on. And to me, when I touch it, I perceive it's solid. But who is perceiving that? Is that the mind that translates that light, that translates that when I touch, my frequency or my energy connects with a table, so that the impulse from those fingers is sent all the way to my nervous system, to my brain, and my brain perceives it's real, perceives it's stable. But that's the way our brain is calibrated to read that frequency, to read that energy, and perceive only that as a real. But perhaps is it real, is it not? You don't know. If we change our frequency of our body or change the energy, it might actually kind of might confuse even more, but I'm trying to get to the point that everything is made of that particles, everything is made of that frequency, but the way how our brain perceives and sees that frequency or that energy is different for every human being. It's different for every being on other dimension or in another galaxy or planet or stars, because their frequency is different, and the way how we perceive the world, we think it's real, we think it's only those colors exist. Colors is a frequency. It's been measured by scientists that every color has its own frequency or that energy. And when I talk about energy, I would see constantly like people's auras, and I would even though we think like, oh, there's like, I'm walking through the space, or like I'm walking outside, there's nothing there. But those particles of the prana or the energy, they're everywhere. We don't necessarily perceive that we're walking through it. And we don't, like, when we touch the air, we feel like, oh, we don't feel, there's nothing there. But perhaps there's something there. And to me, every human being or everything else that exists on this plane and beyond is just a frequency. But the way how our subconscious mind or the conscious mind or our consciousness sees and perceives the world, this reality and every other reality, it perceives in those frequencies. We're almost creating the hologram of existence.
One quote I like is, what is water to a fish? And it's that same kind of idea. Is this the medium? It's the substance that's, if you want to get nerdy and break down the atmosphere, it's a less dense version of water, right? And it's the same idea. Is it's a medium that holds all things in the sense of the water holding the fish. It's the same idea with the particles in space around us in the air. It's just at a different frequency, different density. So it's that, like web, and there's so many names for it across all of the different teachings and cultures, but it's, the field of energy via, different frequencies, which materialize as particles.
Absolutely. And we all connect. They're all interconnected.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
The web of those frequencies, that's how we connect, by simply like I might think of someone, and all of a sudden that person might call me right away or think about me as well. So like when we connect through those frequencies to each other, or we start creating, and a lot of times it can be also explained, whatever whatever frequency that you carry inside of you, or the energy field that you carry inside, that's what you attract into your life.
Mm-hmm.
For example, if you carry a lot of anger inside of you, that means the person who will show up in your life as a reflection, as a mirror, that person will keep triggering and reminding you, oh, there's a triggering inside of you, that anger and irritation. But that's the energy, or that's the frequency that you carry. And the more we work on increasing that frequency, then our life start changing, the fields start changing too, the patterns of our life start changing too. But then there again, I mean, it's everyone's spirits, every person choice. Do you want that change to happen? Maybe not. Maybe we want to all keep playing in this hologram reality.
I think it's so funny that we can so easily understand sonar in correlation to other animals. Like, oh yeah, bats do that, dolphins do that, no big deal. They send out frequencies of sound that they use to analyze data in their environment, coming back to them, in that same fashion, interpreting the frequencies that are coming back that they're putting out. It's like, what an awesome concept. Like, of course, that's like a highly advanced technology that can be utilized to great benefit. It's like, well, I mean, we're doing the same thing. And for us to not like see the parallels there between humans and nature, of like, a percentage of our DNA is identical to that of a tree. And, just looking at the way, just studying nature, seeing nature unfold all these processes, and then, come into union with the fact, going back to what we were talking about, is union, of self to the all, to the energy. Nature is one of those material representations of that energy, and what a beautiful expression of it. And to study nature and see those parallels within ourselves then gives us that, information, that opportunity to utilize those skills, those tools, the, methods that we learn, like sonar, for example. It's that same concept. We're doing it all the time. It's just being aware, like you said, it goes back to awareness every time, of being aware that we're doing so. So that way you can start to recognize that contrast in your life as an experience to catalyze change, to create something new. Once you get rid of the old, then you leave that new room space, or that new room for the new stuff to come in. So it's just like, stepping back, like you said, being aware of that process and, seeing it's happening all the time around us, within nature, within ourselves.
I have a really interesting example with kids, how kids, they're so sensitive to others people's frequencies. So whoever is in the room, or they're so sensitive to energies of other people. One time I was teaching a yoga class to kids, and it was very outside, like it was a thunderstorm, very cloudy day. It was a rainy day, and someone in a classroom started crying because I think that child, it was just something emotional was coming up. And then the other kids who are very empath and sensitive to the energies of others, or sensitive to the frequencies that I would be putting out, or the other child was emitting to the whole classroom. And the other kids just became sensitive and they started crying too. And then it was just a beautiful example how we all interconnected, and we all, as little transmitters, we receive information as a form of energy or the frequency, and then we put out to the world also the energy. We emit that energy constantly. Our brains, no matter like where we are right now, even though we're in different all places, but our frequency, we all connected on other planes, and we all, even though we talk physically, but we talk on energetic level as well.
Mm-hmm.
And kids are always a good reminder. They just show me how deep that understanding of interconnection to each other.
Yeah, and I love the example you gave a little bit earlier with you touch the table, and it's just energy from the table that your brain is interpreting a certain way. Because I feel like one of the objections I hear a lot, all that mystical, all that stuff, it's not real, it can all be explained by science. You're seeing the expression on their face and hearing the tone of their voice, and that's all that it is. And I'm just like, but does it matter? Isn't that the same thing? When somebody is changing their facial expression, and those movements in their face are being sent as vibrations that our eyes absorb as light and put in an image that is unconsciously causing a feeling in our brains with mirror neurons, isn't that energy being transferred from one person to another anyway? The tone of their voice that's being sent as vibrations in the air that we hear as sound, that our brain then subconsciously interprets and causes us to feel a certain way, isn't that the same as sensing their vibe? What's the difference really when you talk about it? And so it's, yes, you can get into the technicalities of it, but in a way it's just what language resonates with the person you're speaking to in order to get the message across in a way where they will understand what you're trying to convey.
It reminds me of a story of the banana cart. Can't remember where I heard this, but the long story short of the story is some adventurer stumbles upon a native island of Aborigines, no technology, third world civilization. And he goes, oh my goodness, I want to help these people out. And they're banana farmers. And so he's like, well, I'm going to get them a car so that way they can drive to town and transport goods, and they'll be able to, use it. And they just used it as a storage bin for bananas because they didn't know how to utilize the car. They didn't understand the technology, the application, and I think that's so key too, looking back. Like one of my favorite quotes kind of representing the yin yang symbol is, preserve the core and stimulate change. The core intentions remain the same, but the expressions of them, come about in a multitude of ways, and it's ever changing. Just like, the message of all the spiritual teachers out there, they're talking about the same thing, like come into union with the nature and love yourself and love others. It's like a lot of these basic core traditional wisdom principles and parables that have gotten passed down. There's different ways that they express, different stories are told, but it's the same moral of the story. It's the same theme. It's like lessons are just embedded in throughout human history as like little breadcrumbs of inspirations. One of my favorite quotes, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear, like you said. there will be a desire within you at a said point in time when you're, ready and able to pursue some of those reflections.
Yeah, it's a beautiful way of seeing it and interpreting.
So I'm curious to hear more about your healing center. What type of work are you doing there? And you went into a little bit about the charitable organization that goes around to schools, but I know when we spoke earlier, you mentioned a pretty big vision that you have for the healing center and how you'd like that to, impact the world. And I'd love for you to expand on that.
Yes, definitely. Well, now I have a yoga studio, it's in a city, in very busy city in Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. And I'm grateful for all students. I'm grateful for that new big, for that just a little step towards the other projections or the visions that I wanted to manifest in my life. The current studio, we serve adults and teens and kids. We offer yoga, mindfulness, healing, variety of holistic healing services. We offer trainings. We have a variety of practitioners who are on the board in that studio. But definitely my vision is I feel like the part of our connection to nature, to me, it's so important. And to find and co-create that space, the sacred space where you feel in that full resonance with you and nature, with your other dimensions and your spirit world. And it's so important. And during my meditations, I would do a lot of channeling and downloads, and I would see a wonderful piece of land that being turned into self-sustainable healing arts, like a center and a school for kids as well, for the kids who are more awakened, the kids who are ready to learn and to develop and to bring those gifts to the world, and creating that environment for people to come as like a retreat center, or like more of kind of a healing center. Specifically, I'm looking to more connected to Hawaii, to Maui. So that's where my heart is calling me to go to.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And my goal is to really to manifest the land and the space and the actual healing arts center self-sustainable by bringing the high technology into that space where there's no dependency on the system. There's no dependency on resources that one day can be not available to us anymore. I would definitely love to bring more of the high-end technology, more of the one that does not exist currently, but to be able to have AC or the heat if it's needed, to have a water source, but all comes naturally without hurting the nature. Being part of the sustainable, self-sustainable, eventually later on, as a school, as the healing center, the retreat center, where people can come and just take that time off by letting go of all the cares and worries and really develop deeper on their self journey and their self-discovery. If they are dealing or they're working with their physical health issues or emotional issues, there's a place where they can find that surrender, where they can find that peace, where they can find that understanding, non-judgmental, like sacred space of just being honest and true to yourself, what is happening inside of you, instead of running away from yourself and numbing those feelings or those pains with a variety of substances that just pushing further and further yourself away from the true essence of who you are. And in that Healing Arts Center, I would love to have all natural variety of therapeutical programs for people to come and to explore. I see that people come from around the world. There's the most intuitive, or like more with a pure intention. The people who are working there, they have really pure intention, connecting and helping and assisting. That's what the mission, their calling on this planet Earth is, just being at service to others. And but still seeing on the side, there's some kind of a school, because kids, they infuse this planet Earth with new energies. If we stay in that old way of thinking that we know everything, we don't know anything. And the kids, they actually enlighten, and they're a new generation. They bring new uploads, downloads, new channeling energies. They keep infusing this planet with what they need for their coming future. And to me, having a school on that property is important, because I see those kids, there's no even teachers there. The kids, they're teaching each other, they're learning from each other, and they're even writing books. They're downloading a new variety of science, and they merging those science and technology and healing and medicine and the way of living and existing, like almost like into one. There's no separation. And to me, that's the model that I wanted to imply and to use in that Healing Arts Center, and expanding into the community as a supportive, self-sustainable community where we can all be in support of each other, instead of living from ego, just me, that's all for me. And that's my vision, that I would love to have the model which can pass on, if that's the other places desire to have, but implementing, if they feel resonating with that specific model in other places, and growing and expanding the community of one consciousness, one family, one, despite the way we're coming from, we're all different. We cannot be all the same. We're all bringing different frequencies. We come from different stars, different planets, different dimensions. But at the end of the day, we're all one. We all come back to the same source, despite of our beliefs about ourselves or our existence. Despite how different and unique we all are, but we all come back to the same source. And that's my grand vision for my next phase of my life. And I feel like I'm ready for that transition. I'm ready for that manifestation. I'm ready to step forward. And to be honest and true to myself, I was withholding myself for quite a while, because when I usually start something, I'm like, the mind starts saying like, well, if you stop doing here, then you failed it. But I know that's not true, because I did all my work here. I fulfilled all my contracts, all my work, my assignments, the more spiritual contracts. That's what I meant to say. And I feel like, when it's time emerging, I'm growing. My frequency is growing. I'm emerging. I'm evolving. And I feel like I want to evolve, and I want to bring forward into this world the other passions, the arts. I want to bring more what is who I am. To me, like, when we stay with one idea, or like, when we complete something, I feel like we start degrading, and instead of evolving, we go backward on our journey. So that's kind of the vision that I see for myself, and I'm very open. I'm grateful for all the blessings for all people. I'm grateful for you guys for this wonderful time, and allowing me to manifest and plant the seeds, and to plant those ideas, and birthing those ideas into reality. Because every time when we speak that frequency, we just put it out to the universe, we put it out to the world for manifestation. And that frequency has already been sent, and it's already been received by receivers. And whoever is being called to be on the same path, on the same journey, they're already connected. They already, perhaps we might not even met, or like we might not even know those people, but we already all connected. We already know those people are just, with the synchronicity, they all fall into one. that one big journey of evolving together. And that's the vision that my next steps of my healing art center, bringing into the retreat center, being on the land, connecting to all forces, all nature, coming back to that mother womb where everything is started. Our planet gave us a birth. It gave us opportunity to be here. And to me, it's like my calling to give back to the earth, to give back by just placing my feet on the earth, my knees, my forehead, and just with that deep gratitude, just taking a moment to be grateful to our beautiful mother, to that divine feminine energy that's so patient with every human being.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely resonates with us. We've talked about that extensively. I know a couple other people. It's just crazy how a bunch of us have so recently, over the past couple of years, come into each other's lives. And after we've already formed bonds, found out that we've had such similar visions of, something similar to a healing center where multiple modalities come together to create this, holistic space for people. I think one of the things that resonated, uniquely with me was what you said about learning from children, the environment where it wouldn't be trying to mold children, but actually a way for children to contribute to society. And I think that it's detrimental to children and to us that we marginalize them instead of allowing them to contribute their unique gifts to society and to this world, because a lot of the creativity and the capacities that they have, we've lost. And while we have a lot more experience and sort of higher level analytical skills, and those are extremely important, and children need to learn that from us, we could totally benefit from incorporating children into some of the creating and planning and problem solving that we have in the world. Just hearing their perspective, like you said, it's unadulterated. It's, if you go to a child and try to explain to them some of the conflicts that are happening in the world, they're like, well, they should just share with each other. And it's like, you know what? They're kind of right. We've just found a way to make it a lot more complicated than that. In some ways, by taking that perspective and allowing children to authentically contribute what they uniquely can give, all of us would benefit. Children would have more meanings, especially teenagers. Some of you know I was a high school teacher in the past. And, I think part of the bad reputation teenagers get, the behaviors, the acting out, is because they're marginalized.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes, I mean, incorporate them, value teenagers instead of trying to stomp out their light and make them fit in with what we want. And also, teenagers represent change. They're a new generation that's coming, and they're going to change what we've already established, and that is a threat. So people try to stomp that out, make them conform. If instead we embrace that, allow them to contribute in the ways that they can, make them, value them, everyone wins. And even younger children, I learn from my son all the time. There are qualities that Eric has right now. He's just trying to get me to give him my phone so he can text his grandma. But there are qualities that Eric has that I genuinely admire. And I look in some situations, I'm like, wait a minute, how would Eric handle this?
Yeah.
Because we can all learn from each other. And I just love that you said that and that you brought that into this conversation.
Also, just to kind of note on that, and the reason why we feel like that calling to do something that we envision of the next steps to bring into the world. And for example, like the retreat center, the healing center, and that more the school for kids of new millennium. And the reason why we feel and that calling, or we kind of like we guided towards doing this because of them. they bring those energies or those frequency, we picking it up, and we start creating that environment for them to thrive and to be who they are. So now, right now, it's our turn to co-create that environment for them to be who they are. Because we know that back in our times when we were kids, that wasn't the case. And now, like, they're seeking for that help, because we as a conscious beings, we knew and we know how hard it was for us when our light was dimmed, when we were in that state of like non-existence. We were invisible. We didn't even know who we are and what are we doing and what is happening in the world. But now, since the new millennium of kids are coming, they're already coming with a pure consciousness, instead of carrying on the codes of ancestors and processing the codes of, or the patterns or emotions. Instead of processing those past codes, right now the kids, they come already with totally pure consciousness, and they're ready, but we don't have that environment for them to be who they are. So that's what we're doing now as our generation. We co-creating that environment for those kids who are coming with totally pure consciousness, with their own destiny, with their own mission. They're not anyhow connected to planet Earth or to any ancestors that had their own certain lessons and experiences to explore and to learn. But they are like little, to me, like transmitters, and like they just keep buzzing and keep like reminding us, like, I am here, but there's no environment. And that's why I want to have the school in the nature where they can really connect fully and deeply, because knowing that in a city it's hard. They have a lot of potential, they have a lot of energy, but how do you direct that energy? Because there's so many constrictions in the cities, and there's a lot of like exposure to unhealthy frequencies, starting from foods and finishing up. I mean, even in our houses, there's a lot of frequencies, a lot of like things that affects their nervous system, affects their consciousness. And the goal is to co-create the environment where it's going to be made of really natural materials, those houses, or the eco materials for the school, where the kids that don't, their mind right now is just so triggered and is just distracted with so many colors and smells and all the unnatural fabrics, and there's so many like just trigger points for them where they cannot fully embody into the body and do their work, what they here to do, because there's so many other things that are just keep taking their mind away, and they keep like just being everywhere at that moment. So the goal of that school is to have very supportive environment where there's a lot of green plants, where there's a lot of open sunlight, perhaps still protecting with the with windows, but to have a lot of exposure to the sun. Maybe not direct sun, but to have that light, so we're really activating, to have exposure where the kids having the earthing, barefoot walking, perhaps it's a house, but having like a rocks and beautifully putting together like some rocks and some inside plants, and having the walls that are made of natural materials, all the natural materials inside of and just to see how naturally their frequency is just really recalibrating. It's much, much easier for the spirit to be in that body. Because now what it does constantly, we are not necessarily draining, but we're using a lot of energy just to keep recalibrating our body. Every time when we exposed to as simple as refrigerator. What is refrigerator? I don't want to start that topic, but I'm just saying it's just a different frequency. And every time when we put the food into that refrigerator, so what are we eating? We're eating that frequency. We're eating that, like, the electricity we're putting into the body. But that child who comes with a totally different vibration, and their already DNA is different, their mind works different, their brain is operating much faster, and here you're putting the food from refrigerator to that keto body, it's just like that keto is gonna first work with that food and trying to figure out, what do I do? How do I put this food into those particles? What do I even do with this food? And then if you put this not healthy food into the kids' bodies, that's totally throw them off. And that's where the emotional disturbance comes. That's when they start, as we call it, misbehaving or not listening, because they just don't even know what to do. And then adults, they saying, oh, the kids are bad. But are their kids bad, or it's just there's no supportive environment for them to be who they really wanted to be? And that's what, to me, creating that environment is so essential, so where we can fully tap into our potential. Even as an adult, it's never too late to tap into that potential of allowing to come through this body, which is just the vessel of everything what you really want to bring into this world, or meant to bring to this world. And yeah, that's just a little note about like how creating an environment for our kids is so essential, so then they can thrive and they can be their authentic self instead of working through emotions that not necessarily even belong to them. Those emotions are triggered by other things, like as simple as a paint in our house, as simple as the refrigerator running, and they're creating that vibration. And a lot of kids right now, they're sensitive to sounds. Not take that sound until you turned it off, and they're just like, oh, I just and there's, I mean, Wi-Fi, there's so many things that affects our brain. And the more we bring higher frequency into the world, they come with that frequency, it becomes much harder to be in an environment that is not supportive. And the only what you wanted to do, you just want to escape. You want to run away. You want to just become invisible and be partially exist here and partially don't. And that's when, for some kids, I start noticing in my classes, they feel like they're here, but they're not here. So, and it's not because they don't want to participate, but for some of them, even the sound, like if you talk loud, or the other kids talking loud, they cannot take that frequency. They cannot take that sound. It hurts their ears. It hurts their brain. But no one can understand them and even want to understand them. And that's what, to me, creating that supportive environment where the other kids, they understand each other, where they're coming from. They supportive to each other. They teaching each other. And they teaching adults and co-creating, start creating from little. To me, I find in every aspect, like right now, I just finished my hypnotherapy session for a child, and I'm just still under that vibe of that session. It's just like, wow, the kids' minds are just so open. And I didn't teach him what he shared with me. He was very open because he can't say that to parents. Like as soon as mom walked into our studio, he became quiet. He completely became invisible. He put his mask on, pretend that he's a different child. And that's how a lot of times that's what happens to me. Kids, they just bring so much new knowledge that is within them, but they need a listener. They need someone to trust. They need the right environment. It doesn't matter if it's a school, if it's a yoga class, if it's a parent, but they want to have that safety. They want to feel acknowledged, noticed, and they want it to feel like they're heard. Only if one time, if that trust is breached, that child will never open up to that adult. As soon as one time that adult will raise the voice on that child, that trust is breached. That child will never open up to that parent or to that adult. Because they know as soon as we plant the fear, and a lot of times the schools have created, or everything on this plane, on third dimension is based on the fear-based. But the kids with a new millennium, with a new perspective on life and existence, as soon as you put on them fear, they shut down.
Yeah.
You lost them forever until somehow when they'll awaken, I mean, not awaken, but come out of that, child state, and eventually they'll become adults and they'll just come into that deep understanding and compassion and forgiveness. But if we want to work with kids early, that love-based environment is so essential. The system of fear, and if someone doesn't do well, you get a bad grade. It's just pushing them away from the even channeling and bringing the knowledge into the world. It's like, I'm not here for competition. A lot of times I hear in my classes, when we do and create games in yoga classes, they tell me, it's like, Miss Sunny, this game, I don't think so it's going to be a good game because there's a competition, and that we're all the same and we're all equal. It's like, that's right. The kids right now, they teach me a lot. They remind me, I mean, working with adults, go back to the other me, the one that needs to be tough, the one needs to be like have a voice, and the one who needs to do everything on time, on task, not to be spontaneous, not to be in a moment. But they keep reminding us in every class when I teach and work with them. And no matter what we do and no matter where we are, whether it's a yoga class or whether it's a school, it's essential to create that right environment for them. From love-based environment, not the fear-based.
Yes, absolutely. There are no bad children. There are only bad caregivers. And you're right, creating the environment, having them feel genuinely acknowledged, genuinely cared for. It's allowing it to be, like you said, spontaneous, child-directed as much as appropriate. You're absolutely right. It's a lot of these simple things that are being done wrong that then manifest in all of these problems that people are trying to solve, but really we're causing a lot of them.
Well, unfortunately, I mean, it's also important to remember the history of our human race and other races on this planet and beyond. There was a lot of things that were involved, and sometimes whatever we do it unconsciously too. We don't mean to raise voice. We don't mean to be angry and mean. We don't mean to do something that totally maybe makes zero sense. But our traumas, our past experiences, they shape who we are. And until we connect and honor and understand that what I do and what I did, it wasn't coming from conscious state. It just came simply from our pain body. And what is pain body? It's our layer of existence. When something traumatic happens, the way our subconscious mind works, it picks up only high frequencies and low frequencies. If something very exciting, happy moment, either on this existence or any other existence happens, our subconscious mind records that frequency, but it does not differentiate bad or good. Then everything what is something that traumatic happens to us, we also remember in every little detail. That memory just stays there, and as the flashbacks keep coming back. But if you don't remember what we ate 2 months ago for our lunch, because it was neutral energy, it was neutral frequency at that moment, so subconscious mind does not register that. It's only registered with something that is high frequency or low frequency. And a lot of times, as a vessel, this body is just channeling in all those energies of who we are, either higher frequency, or if we have that pain body, even as a caregivers. We don't mean to project those energies on our kids. We don't mean to project those energies to the world. But our pain body is there until we heal it. And that's where the holistic, that healing art retreat center comes into the place for our generation, for older generation, for the planet Earth patterns, the codes that we're all dealing with, for our ancestry codes and patterns. we do need to heal them before we can develop further. And by creating that environment, we always will be working on ourselves too and evolving ourselves. We cannot say that, and a lot of times, even if the kids were exposed to, from the caregivers or parents, the energies that are not necessarily pleasant, those beings or those spirits, they'll come into the compassion and understanding, and they may not necessarily right now expressing it, but they will, when it will be adults, they will come to understanding that they did not do it to hurt me. They did it just truly because that's what the best they knew. That's the only learning that they received from their parents. That's the knowledge that they received, those passed on from generation. That's the pain that actually they're carrying on and processing for the entire ancestry line. It's a lot of work to do for caregivers and adults too. So we always need to take both sides of coming compassionately to our generation, to older generation, and to the same time to be on track and but always be healing and compassionate to yourself too, because we cannot just say that everything what we did is bad, let's just erase and start over. It's all interconnected, it's all evolving. That's what evolution, the spiral, comes into the place, where we just the fruits of that tree that has already been planted. The ancestors who that were here, the other beings and spirits who already were here on this planet, they planted those certain experiences, and now it's up to us. Do we want to stay and keep playing those experiences and relearning those lessons, or do we want to recalibrate ourselves? We wanted to transform those energies and start co-creating a new environment, planting a new seeds. And perhaps already our kids or the next generation after our kids, when they come to this planet Earth, they might not even know what is fear. They might not even know what suffering is, because the only what they would learn is the other energies that they're evolving. That might already, it's going to be all love-based environment on the planet Earth, and the code of fear is fully deactivated and is no longer in existence in their minds and their bodies. They don't even know what it is. And they might already spending their energy, their life force on creating something more advanced and tapping into other dimensions and bringing forward and start levitating, start moving objects, start doing all those wonderful other things that now we can do it because we don't have enough energy, we don't have enough life force to spend on tapping into other abilities that we don't even use. So now as our generation, what we do, we're recalibrating the whole planetary grid of the coding on the whole planet, so then we can start already creating something new. But now until we heal ourselves, we can move forward, because every time that shadow self will be coming up, we think like, oh, well, I'm just going to quit this job because that job triggers me those emotions. Oh, I'm just going to leave this person, this partner, because that partner is causing me hurt and pain. We're always trying to run away, but running away is not solving your problem. Solving a problem is, again, slow down, ground yourself, just see it from the perspective like, okay, what is happening? Why it's happening in my life? What it really means to me and to the world. And not taking it personally that I'm not bad. No one else is bad. We're all in that one big playground to play together with those energies and emotions. We are the creators of that reality. If we created pain and suffering, we can the same way deactivate and destroy it, remove it, change it, transform it. And that's what we all do here. That's how I see, to me, when I'm there on the playground and working with different people and kids. I'll just keep learning and keep evolving, and my goal is keep creating, but I never stop my evolution process and my transformation, because I know that I'm always carrying the energies of others, and I'm connected to others, and I cannot just leave behind them and say, oh, I'm good, I'm better than someone else, because we're all equal, we're all working together. We all depend on each other a lot. Whatever you put out to the world, that's what the world and other people are receiving. And then they will reflect back to you that the change and that transformation starts with you.
Yeah.
Something
Beautiful.
came to me when I was writing the other day. Just the phrase came to me: embody the teachings. And it just is so relevant right now to this whole conversation, and just like this time space period where the opportunity is upon us to create a space. Structure allows space a name, right? When you put four walls around an invisible space, it becomes a room. And providing these teachings, providing these methods of application, these practices, being practitioners, we have to embody those teachings. And that's the beauty of this experience, is the infinite ways that you can choose to express yourself and find yourself and connect to yourself through a multitude of different teachings. And having a healing center where someone can try strawberry ice cream and somebody else can try vanilla ice cream and somebody else tries chocolate ice cream. There's a different selection of techniques and concepts and methods and practices that can be used for a multitude of different students. Like for me, yoga has been a very strong calling, but I also dabble in qigong, and that's going to be somebody else's path. Somebody else's path might be tai chi. Somebody else's path might be gardening, and growing and cultivating food. That connection with nature is, equally as, in my mind, equally as valid and important as like, a movement practice, if you will, like a nature practice of some kind, and art, and just all the different ways that one can express the self in, with the intention of learning more about oneself. Like it kind of goes back to that just beautiful line by Lao Tzu, is know thyself. I think it's so prophetic because of its simplicity, but the depth within those words of knowing thyself, like there's so much there, like you were saying, ancestral lineages, conditioned behaviors from cultural influence, and possible high impact emotional energies that you've interacted with in the past, whatever, good or bad, dictating all of these different, interests that you have that lead you down this breadcrumb trail. And, for some people it may be yoga, for some people it may be physical therapy, for some people it may be, qigong, and others Reiki, and, for others, a more structured, formal approach, like, studying medicine. They're all paths to the same forest, and having a sample platter of practices for people to come experiment with and try on and see if they enjoy it. Do what you love. If you're, like a great story I know from someone is they did, like, and this is common, I'll get people talking about this all the time. It's like, how do I meditate? Or, you go through all this extravagant preparation, you get the pillow just right, and you light the candle, and you go to this secret statue or whatever. It's right here. It's all right here. The guru's right here. That moment of you just sit and be with yourself and realize, who you are through that, and then explore, the different possibilities of how to, open up that rabbit hole even further. But, there's not really a place like that per se, in my opinion, that has like all of those modalities combined together and has the overall theme of a healing center, but also a school of wisdom, which is like, for any of you guys that follow me, that's what I rant about constantly. So, it's just beautiful that Maui too is seemingly, one of the most perfect places you can do that. You have strong creative energy here, super beautiful connection with nature. So that flow, connection, energy vibe is high here all the time. You have, a little bit less of the influence of cultural conditioning because it's on an island outside of, the major quote unquote city life kind of model. So it's interesting, that like this conversation is happening. Like Nicole said, like a lot of people that we have all three come in contact with have explored the potential of this idea, and having it be a space where everybody can come to connect and to heal and to grow without us doing anything other than really providing that structure. You know, we're the walls in the room. Nobody notices the walls, but without them, the room wouldn't exist. And that's like, I was just having a conversation about this the other day. As I used to when I was younger with ego, it's kind of like the quote by, I think it's Rumi, I believe. I was young and wanted to change the world. Then I became wise and changed myself. It's like that idea when I was younger, legacy. I wanted to leave a legacy. Like, look at all these great people throughout time, like Buddha or Jesus or, you know, the great kings and, you know, all these names that have been kind of seemingly passed on through human history. I want to be like that. I want my name to be remembered for the centuries. And the more I've grown, the more, you know, like I'd be just as equally content if nobody remembered my name at all, because everybody was so preoccupied with how awesome life was and everything was cool and they were chilling. You know, you get that point where like they all think they did it, you know, as that's like the idea is you want everybody to come together to do it, as opposed to like me leaving any kind of legacy that I did. I just want to slowly slip away, you know, like if I can just be a wall and just be, you know, create order, create structure, create an opportunity for someone to explore space, explore themselves, then I feel like I'm doing my job, because, you know, I'm still in my state of knowing and contentment and fulfillment because I'm being myself, and that's what calls to me the most. And then I have those expressions in my real life. Like I like to do yoga. I like, you know, I have these different things that I do out throughout the day that are, you know, kind of intentional rituals that create enjoyment within me, you know, so I'm still doing my things that make me me, but, you know, have that larger kind of vision of creating a space where others can come learn how to do that themselves in their own way as well, without any judgment.
I feel like I just want to bring it back to one thing that was mentioned earlier. What can people start doing now? And as you said, Sunny, sit down in silence without distractions and see what's there. And that's it. That's how you start. And I love that you mentioned that as a starting point. And so I'd love for our listeners to just take that away. You know, as soon as you put down this episode, if you can, just sit down in silence, no agenda, no objective. I'm going to use these 5 minutes of silence to figure out my to-do list for tomorrow. No, just sit down and see what's there. And I mean, for a lot of people, there's fear around doing that. There is significant anxiety. They're like, no, I don't want to know what's there. It's better if I just, you know, continue being busy and just keep that, you know, shoved way far down, you know, bury that. And I mean, that's the point. That's what needs to be brought to the surface. That's what you need to observe. That's what needs to come out, because it's there all the time anyway. It's affecting you all the time anyway, whether you observe it and take the time to notice it or not. So yeah, and then like you said, that's the start of yoga right there. Just observe and then see what resonates with you, whether it's the meditation part, whether it's the physical practice, whether it's the mindfulness habits that you can practice throughout daily life as you're going about your business. You know, whatever it is, see what resonates with you and start there and see where it takes you. And if you live anywhere near the Washington, D.C. area, get yourself and your whole family, and especially your kids, into Sunny's studio.
Yeah, you're always welcome. We are at 3260 Duke Street on Alexandria, Virginia. Very close to Washington, D.C., a couple miles away. It's also a busy place. So, but when you walk into our studio, it's like every student usually tells us, like, wow, I just got to Oasis, because like our space is all green. We have plenty of palms and like, even though we're in a busy space, busy street, but it's just like so calm and and then people come, like they just feel so like relaxed, and And then they're ready to go back to their assignments and to whatever they're doing.
Yeah, all that other stuff. So for people who aren't in the Washington, Fairfax area, how can they follow you, keep in touch with you?
We have definitely a website. It's www.yogatoka.com. We have a Facebook page, which is Yoga in Alexandria. That's our social media Facebook page.
So to clarify, is that the Facebook handle, Yoga in Alexandria?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's if you search for by Yoga Toka, you'll find it too. But the Yoga in Alexandria that's the keyword. You can always follow my page. I love to post a variety of inspirational every day, fun stuff. It's Sunny Anastasia. That's my page on Facebook. And I'm always available to learn and to grow if there's anyone in particular. I always love to explore and to meet, no matter where you are.
Absolutely. So make sure you reach out to Sunny. She really does love talking about this stuff. I know she'd appreciate some messages from you all.
Yep.
So don't be shy.
That's right.
Sunny, thank you so much for joining us on this episode. It's been an absolute pleasure to hear about your journey and your projects and where you're headed. And I just wish you all the best of luck in making your vision come to life. We need it.
I have one more to add really quick about our yoga and healing and psychic abilities retreat/training that is coming up in Maui, Hawaii.
Ooh.
October 4th through October 11th with a master channeler, Michael Shane. He's leading the training. During that training, we'll be learning about advanced mediumship. We'll be doing a lot of hands-on practice every day, 6-hour long day training, but we split it into 3 hours in the morning, three hours in the evening, so we have a little break in between. And we'll be learning about remote viewing. If you're not familiar with what it is, it's like if I'm here, but I know what is happening in Maui, for example. I'm here on the East Coast, but I can see with my etheric body what is happening on the East Coast. I can go to the ocean. I can see the waves. And we'll be learning about psychometry, which is if I am holding this phone, for example, then with my eyes closed, I can scan the energy of this phone, and then I can know who was holding this phone before me or who this phone belongs to. So that's called psychometry. We'll be learning about energy, crystal healing, about how to do the energy work with crystal healing, with more not necessarily only physical crystals, but more interdimensional crystals. So there'll be a lot of learning about the psychic abilities, the actual applying those gifts and connecting to your gifts. So the channeler, Michael, he will be channeling for every person who is attending the training what is your special gifts and talents that you here for in this world. And then definitely we'll be working on activating those certain abilities and gifts, and then practicing. So the practice is a key. It's the same way as learning language, or as we were with little kids, we were learning how to walk. We will stand up and fall, and we'll stand up and fall, and like keep practicing. And then in a year, or like several months, then we know how to walk. So.
Can you say the name of the event again? What was it? The Yoga Healing and Channeling Retreat?
It's Yoga Healing and Psychic Abilities Retreat. There's a website that is called Yoga Retreat. Look it up. I have my cat here. He's saying hello to everyone.
Hi, Kitty.
Okay, so it's Yoga Healing Retreat .eventcreate.com. That's the website for the retreat.
Okay, and for those of you listening, we'll have all of this in the show notes so that you can find Sunny and also sign up for this retreat.
And it's going to be fun. We'll be doing yoga as well. We'll be doing meditation. We'll be doing a lot of self-work because it's important. And we'll be doing the psychic abilities training. Definitely detoxing food by our master chef, a very wonderful energy healer, Tati, who does like beautiful artwork. The way like her food looks like is just like you connect on all levels to that food.
Amazing. Yeah, that sounds awesome. And so, yes, everyone listening, definitely check out all of these websites and Facebook pages so that you can keep in touch with the wonderful work that Sunny's doing and, either get started or dive deeper into your yoga practice.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to hear about your journey, everyone's journey, all the listeners, your personal, unique journey of discovering of who you are.
Yeah, thank you.
Get in touch with everyone soon or follow up. Who wants to connect?
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. And thank you everyone listening for tuning in to Optimizing Human Potential, Mind, Body, and Soul, brought to you by the Holistic Therapies Directory. Make sure you check out holistictherapiesdirectory.com to find practitioners like Sunny Anastasia, like John and I, and a whole variety, everything from Reiki to physical therapy to massage therapy and acupuncture and coaching and spiritual healing. Anything you can imagine is on there. So whether you're a practitioner looking to share what you do with the world, or whether you're somebody who's looking to try different modalities, get over there and find someone who might resonate with you. Thank you very much, and we will see you next time.